It's 6:30. I'll call this board meeting to order. We have all board members present. So if we could stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I get approval of the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Lynn, second by Shannon. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is approved. Okay, so we have next, number 4 on the agenda. We have a celebration of excellence for Rocori Proud. So we've got a few young gentlemen in the midst here that we need to celebrate their successes. So,
Jax wants you to bring it up here.
so yeah, we'll just stand.
You're matching up. That's great.
All right, so we've got, you are Jackson, and we've got Jonah. Yes, Jonah. And so these two gentlemen were integral in assembling the newest technology equipment for our 3D printers. They did research and made some suggestions on what was needed to make these printers run. The 3D printers are being used by students in grades 6 through 12, as well as classes and organizations. So we really appreciate all the effort that you brought to the Rocori team and the Rocori schools to help all of our students learn from your great example. So could you tell us a little bit about, a little more behind the scenes, what happened and how we're here today?
So I was more involved in like the networking and stuff, and what we're currently trying to do is we're currently trying to make it so you can remotely access the 3D printing software. And so pretty much you could 3D print from anywhere in the school on like whatever type of file you wanted.
Okay.
If that makes, so then you could, so if you wanted to get a file, you didn't have to actually go to the physical printer.
Okay.
And then you can monitor remotely.
Okay.
So then you can make sure it's printing correctly.
Wow. Okay.
And I was more involved in the assembly and calibration of all the printers to make sure they print smoothly, make sure librarians know how to maintain them, and to make sure the room's set up correctly. Everything's as smooth as it can for people using it.
So how did you come about this knowledge of networking and 3D printing or fixing or setting it all up?
Years of interest, got lots of YouTube videos, and just when I heard it, I jumped on it. It's a good opportunity, lots of life lessons in it.
Cool.
Yeah, I have a lot of interest and and just a lot of YouTube videos. I agree with that one.
Okay. You can learn anything off of YouTube. So. All right. So thank you for all you've done for our schools, and thank you to your parents and family members for being here to support you and to get you where you are today. So really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jonah, if we can get a picture.
Yeah, when you do this one, go on, you try to open further.
Okay.
One, two, three. All right.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
We didn't even surprise you.
Yep. Sure. Okay. Yeah, we can. Okay. Item 5: comments and requests from visitors. Anything there? And at this time, we usually also do get a little bit of a report from our Student Senate Representative Emily. So if you could maybe give us a report back.
Yeah, right now we are just sort of final preparations. We have our blood drive on Wednesday. So we're having people sign up during lunch. And then we have snow days coming up. So the dress up days, we decided on those at our last meeting. And just sort of final preparations for all that.
Awesome. Okay, thank you for the report. Good to see you here today. All right, item number 6 is the consent agenda. Any things that people want pulled? Otherwise, we can take a motion to approve the consent.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Lynn, second by Sunny. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Okay. That brings us to item number 7, Begindergarten Program Update. And we've got our pre-K team here to do a presentation for us. So come on forward.
Sam, do you need to project?
Yeah, do we need to, or we can just, it'd be nice to, right? Put it together. Yeah, is that possible?
The corners way on the back wall.
Like that.
Is there room there?
One has been back, it's I see it's on top of the cart back there.
Okay.
Hold it hard, or?
The remote is on his card. Here, next to us. It's too cute to switch.
Thanks for having us. While this kind of pops up,
Yes,
we'll
just
do introductions
Yeah,
real quick.
that'd be great.
I'm Sam Court, the principal at John Clark Elementary in Rockville.
Stephanie Hillman, Community Ed Director. Carrie Johnson, Principal at Richmond Elementary.
Okay, welcome.
Dr. Skansky can't make it tonight, and Mr. Baumgarten helped us with the presentation as well. Kind of a team effort across the early childhood and elementary grades. So we've been looking at what we're calling now a Rocori Transitional Kindergarten Program. So it's just kind of a programming update we thought we would provide for you tonight, since it is a change from what we've been doing, and you may be receiving some questions. So this hopefully will help. You want to take down?
So transitional kindergarten says that there's an option for families who have young kindergarten eligible children who believe that they want their child to benefit from the gift of time. So we're talking about those that are inching up on that September 1st deadline, who might be a little bit younger to enter kindergarten but still technically eligible. So these children who may not be socially, developmentally, or academically ready for kindergarten, this would help them develop their skills needed to be successful in the kindergarten classroom the next year. Smaller print.
Rocori District Goal number 1. Awesome. Increase student achievement. So Rocori has consistently encouraged the gift of time to our students with summer birthdays. See, my eyes are terrible. I don't have my glasses, so I do apologize. Maturation, the physical growth, building background knowledge, your academics, and the huge part is that social emotional piece that we really see with our littles, and being ready for that big step into kindergarten. So this has been met with some resistance because of transportation, economic impact, and also childcare.
So often when we have a conversation with a family on whether our child's ready or not, or when our early childhood teachers are having that discussion, families, they really have to choose based off of some of those economic impacts to send their child. And this is hopefully giving another opportunity to kind of level the playing field and provide one more option for those families. So eligibility, we would look for Rocori Transitional Kindergarten would be students who have birthdays within the eligible period may apply. So we're working on, we're for sure it'll be June through August, and looking at whether May birthdays would be available too or would be eligible. So Stephanie's run a lot of numbers on students we currently have, like this year, who would have been eligible for Rocori transitional kindergarten in prior years, trying to balance and gauge whether we would have enough interest for our class or even multiple classes down the road. And so the way it's looking now, we're looking somewhere within May to have a cutoff for May through August 31st. Those students who are kind of, those bubble families that always kind of try to decide, do I send my child? They're technically, legally they can go to kindergarten, but are they ready? And we know through, a lot of research, if you've read like Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, there's a lot of research on, the older kids in your grade are usually more successful, and sometimes that increased physical strength or just maturity has some multiplying benefits as they go on. Really kind of craziest one that sticks with me was the Canadian hockey team, where they had their cutoff score was, or their kindergarten cut time was November. And when you look at their national team, almost all of the players were the oldest in their class. So why is that? Because they went into school more ready than everybody else, so then they were put in the tougher classes, pushed harder, and it just compounded. So how can we provide some opportunities for all families to make that choice? What do you want for your child, and what's best for your kid? If we have too many students that apply, we have kind of talked about that. What if we do? Then we would start to look at some of the needs on how a student would qualify, or they would qualify just by a birthday, but how could we rank then students in? So based off of free and reduced lunch, EL status, we have a questionnaire that we're working on for academic, social, emotional, and developmental maturity for students, and then administration obviously would reserve the right to perform a lottery if scores are too similar based off of the right criteria. So we would hopefully try to, or I guess with these criteria, we would try to work with our most needy families and students first.
So the RTK classroom looks a lot like a preschool classroom in that there's one classroom teacher and one parent, just like in preschool. The kindergarten part of it comes from a lot of the kindergarten standards, and then also the specials that they would get and allowing that teacher their prep. So they run on the same schedule as a CSE teacher, but be staffed more like a preschool. So it's the cross between it.
But also receive the benefits of the specials and the breakfast and lunch, so that whole day piece, 5 days.
Yeah, schedule would be that of any other student at Cold Spring Elementary. We just would house the program at Cold Spring Elementary just because of the size of the school instead of Richmond and Rockville. But those students who would eventually go to Richmond and Rockville would be eligible still to go to RTK.
Okay, what happens at the end of RTK? You're laughing because it's small again. Spring. So family and teacher have a conference to decide together on the placement for the following year. So Stephanie and the teachers at the DEF do that anyway, to really have a whole look at their child and where they feel if your child's ready to go or not to go. Students will join kindergarten for the following year. Certain exceptions can be made. So if they meet all the standards of kindergarten, they take off. There is that option of skipping that kindergarten year and going to first grade. So that is an option. Students moving directly from RTK to first grade will not have to receive all kindergarten standards.
Yeah, the idea came out of Belle Plaine, I think, and they've been running a program like this for about 4 years, and they said that's definitely the exception to the rule, that they have only had a few cases of students who actually moved on to first grade instead of just joining kindergarten.
Can I ask why? I mean, the whole idea is to give them more time and help them be ready, and why would you want to help them by holding them back to gain it and then get rid of it by sending them to first grade? So I guess I would question, why would that even be an option to do that? Why would we even, why would we just say,
Sure.
if you decide to do this, we've already decided that it's better to have more time.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, so I guess I would be confused on why we'd even.
I think there's probably some kids that it would apply to. I mean, I have a daughter who was born August 27th. I mean, just days from that cutoff.
Right, but I mean, why would you want to skip kindergarten?
if they were doing okay academically, but they needed the time for social and emotional development, that may make a difference. But, you know, if they made the gains in social and emotional, maybe they got the academics, hey, makes sense for
Yeah,
them.
but I mean, they're not getting all the kindergarten stuff. I guess, you know, more time is better to me. It makes, you know, I guess I would just,
And as far as the curriculum piece of it, it's somewhere kind of in between. But we want to expose them to those kindergarten standards, but yet it's the slower paced, more play-based than an actual kindergarten classroom.
To me, it just gives the parents the choice, or the you're giving more choice to the parents, so there's less pressure and more likelihood that they would say, you know what, I'll try RTK, because worst case scenario, they can always go, you know, jump ahead. So it's like safety net.
What about the other direction? Somebody starts kindergarten and emotionally they're not ready for it.
Yeah.
Is there an option that they could kind of bounce down to this and say, now let's do this?
I would say probably not, and you can jump in if you disagree, but with the idea is to keep the class size small and have that be the level of intervention. It's definitely not going to be the catch-all for all of the students that could benefit from this program, but it will for sure give those ones who are identified that I don't want to call it an advantage, but think of the word. The students who might qualify, what was I going to say? No idea. Nobody knows what I'm going on there.
Yeah.
Well, I think Steph, where I'm going with this is that to go backwards isn't going to, it would mess with that class size. We wouldn't have the support for it. These are kids who do have birthdays prior to that, so, you know, by the middle of the year, they may have snapped through that emotional piece and move forward. So it would be tough to go backwards, although I do like the idea of being able to flow. In this case, it might not be the best idea to have flow.
And we'd probably follow the same.
I was thinking more of the parent who says, my child has a July birthday and they're ready, and then 2 weeks after school start, you're going, they weren't ready.
Right. And I think in a regular kindergarten classroom, we do have supports in place to help that student along like we do in all our kindergarten classrooms. So we would definitely track that student and help that student along with the supports other than what's offered in that RTK.
And you'll see in our timeline too, and this is where I was going before, we do have the desire to have the class list by early May, because if the family has the choice to go to kindergarten or go back to preschool, we want them to have that ability to go back to preschool if they can. So having that class list set by May so that they can choose where to go makes a difference too.
So just a quick timeline here. Basically, want me to first start here and share some information on it, but then get some information out to families who have summer birthdays, and let them know a little bit about the program, and then working on setting up a meeting where it would almost be a kindergarten roundup or kindergarten information session, an RTK information session before roundup, so they could attend both. Families would then kind of be able to see both situations, ask questions of administrators and teachers at both, with both programs, so then they could really make a informed decision during March and April.
And then use that summertime to write some curriculum to help connect and bridge the preschool with our current kindergarten curriculum.
and you had mentioned Belle Plaine. I mean, is there other, I mean, I'm guessing other schools are also looking at how to do this, or they've been doing this before? Is it, I mean, it's awesome. I think it's a great idea. I'm curious why, or if you see other schools looking at it.
I think there's some in other states, because I just visited with my son and daughter-in-law over the weekend, and they have the option in South Carolina.
I know Michigan is looking at it, just at the state level.
How does the funding part work? I mean, is that?
They would be seen as a regular elementary student. So just the same funding you would get for any kindergarten through 5th grade student. So basically, I mean, what you're looking at is at that meeting at the end of the year, you're looking at a legal retention. Legally, you're looking at a retention that child is staying within our kindergarten class. So they would legally be retained as far as MBE would be required. We're seeing it as you were in RTK and you're going to kindergarten. So we would still capture all the state funding for those students.
So this is, yeah, so I can speak to it a little bit too because I've been involved with it through Early Childhood Advisory Committee. And so years ago, there was conversations about this, and it started, I think, with Belle Plaine, and then other school districts throughout the state of Minnesota started piloting this program. And the concept was you're getting a preschool education for a kid that's state funded, or that that kind of in between, not just preschool, but preschool, elementary, that transition period. And so but the state was paying for it, and it was kind of a workaround because preschool can be cost prohibitive for a lot of families.
So
and a lot of
if it
families.
stays allowing this, that's what I'm saying. It seems like
Right,
a loophole, but
it is a loophole.
And is this something that other, because you just said there are other schools that are doing it, but then I saw you guys kind of look like, I don't know.
Well, technically, if their birthday's in the summer, they qualify for kindergarten, so it's not like it's...
No, but you have 2 kindergartens. I mean, you're going to kindergarten
You are
twice.
basically getting,
An extra.
I hate to call it this, but you're being redshirted is what you're being. If you
Right.
take it to the sports level,
Right.
you're being redshirted.
I love it because I don't think kids are. I think the middle age area is I mean, this is great. If all of a sudden, it is a way for us to do it. I think. Yeah, I'm just curious why other schools aren't doing it. I guess.
I'm wondering why you didn't do it about 5 years ago.
I know, right?
I have 2 of them.
I know, I have a summer birthday too. I'm like, and a spring birthday. I'm like, I could have taken advantage of this program twice.
As far as you know, there truly isn't any local. I mean, Belle Plaine is kind of the only one that you know that.
That's what we've heard of, yeah. I mean, I guess we haven't reached out to other districts as to why they're not doing it, but Belle Plaine's had incredible success with it. They had only good things to say about, again, that time that it gave kids.
Yeah, this is a really great idea, and I think it directly impacts students at such a young age where we can make big strides. I guess I just have one suggestion. I'm imagining you've already thought of this. It's probably not a brilliant idea, but I'm going to say it anyway. If folks do register their student for kindergarten and they have a summer birthday, it might not be a bad idea to just reach out to them to let them know that we have this program, because we can't assume that they get the communications, that they come to the meetings, that they're registering their student for kindergarten at age 5 with a summer birthday without really, or 4, whatever the case is, but that they're doing it fully informed. And so, I think that would be a good move to just make a phone call or make a contact with them that is their intention. They're fully aware of this program and they are electing to send their young kindergartner to kindergarten. That's probably my only suggestion.
Sam, did you talk about that this is the class-wide intervention, that we would not, this would not be a place where special education would be, this would not be a place where title would be, this is a place where the intervention itself is the kindergarten of the RTK with a kindergarten standard-based classroom, just at a different pace with a paraprofessional support. And so potentially could be profitable for the child, the district, together, with resources. But most importantly, for the gift of time for the student to be ready for kindergarten the following year.
And transportation is provided as well, state funded? Okay.
And I understand, giving them the option, but I think I'm hearing y'all say that the flow of going from this to kindergarten is really the preferred method of how we'd like to see these students go.
Yes, correct.
Not this, skipping a thing, because that doesn't help our number flow and us to know where our students are. So I think as long as that's kind of the feel, most people probably go with that direction.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Belle Plaine, in the 5 years that they've been doing it, maybe had, I think, 4 students that might have had moved on to first grade and skipped that kindergarten. So it's rare.
Right, and most parents want their kids to stay with, disrupt their kids.
And this, which building would this class be in?
Cold Spring Elementary.
At Cold Spring Elementary?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, that does bring up the question. And if you have a Richmond or Rockville family, and you see your kid going to a Richmond or Rockville school because you live 2 blocks from it, it's just a situation where they're going to take advantage of this, and then we will put them back in Richmond or
Right.
Rockville.
Yep.
Is that,
That's correct, yeah.
okay.
I actually know a family who did that themselves. They put their daughter in kindergarten at Cold Spring Elementary, and then she went to kindergarten again at Richmond when she was old enough so that she would be in her local school. So we have parents doing it already themselves.
Just have them repeat kindergarten.
Yeah, but at a different school so that it didn't feel like
yeah.
like they
But
were held
as
back.
long as, but as long as we communicate, I think the parents, so they don't have this in their
Right.
mind that they're gonna be staying there.
Yeah, you
They will
stay.
go back to their
Yes.
home school, per se.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is really no different than if you're in
Preschool.
any other sort of preschool system. It's not necessarily going to be in the same place that your kindergarten class is going to be in.
How many classes do you guys anticipate?
We're planning for one,
Yes.
Okay.
but know that the numbers support potentially 2.
Okay.
Is that just based on how many kids
Just
kind of
because
have
our
birthdays
know
and
about
stuff?
it.
That they know about. Is this open enrolled
Yeah.
students would be eligible for this? Or
And do we have enough space for one, maybe two at Cold Spring
One
Elementary?
potentially for sure, well, one for sure, and then we'd have to get creative with 2. So,
And it would
I
depend
noticed-
too on just, I mean, are you replacing a kindergarten class with the RTK class, or are you getting an additional section
Right.
on top of what you already brought in for kindergarten? So
I noticed you
We'd
also
have to look.
listed the EL students who could qualify. What about EL services? Are we gonna have?
EL services would, and yeah, we said no title or special ed, but EL services would be provided to be
Do we have
kindergarten.
enough staff?
Correct.
That would be a potential add to more staff to service that depending on the enrollment there.
Yeah, I think we would lump it into the whole elementary services and look at our EL numbers across the elementary and see what we need there, probably. So,
Well, thank you, Carrie and Sam and Stephanie for bringing this. This came out of just a conversation of what can we do to help our students have a better experience. It was just a genuine conversation. I think it's Eric is hooked with the Bell Plain Elementary principal through a mentor network, and we need to bring those things that others are doing well to our district and be willing to try it. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Okay, item B, discussion would be parking lease agreement.
Yeah, so, as you know, we're interested in renting some of our land across from the brewery. So it would be like kitty corner to where the Vietnam park is there. So we've been having discussions with the brewery. The brewery sent us a lease agreement. And I was able to get that sent off to our attorney late last week, and I got it mid-afternoon today. Our attorney is saying that we should have a conversation in a couple of areas with the brewery. So tonight is more about a discussion versus an action. So Beth and Brent and I will be sending the document to the brewery and saying, here are some of the things we need to see based off our own attorney, and then we'll come to agreement, and we'll have it probably for the February 10th. The brewery wants to start as soon as they can.
So this
What are they
is,
gonna do with
Well,
it?
yeah, that's what,
What's that?
What are they gonna do with it?
They're going to park some containers on our land. They're gonna put like if I remember right, kind of like a gravel platform, and then park some containers on that. And right now, they're just looking at a 6-month need.
so how does this space, so there's the one little area that was concreted out that they use as a turnaround space,
it was tar. Did they
or
remove
card
that,
or whatever.
did they leave that?
Is that,
It's still there.
I know it's still there, but that's up the hill from where this is? Because
No,
is
it's
that
in the
right
same-
here?
It's in
That's
that
right
same,
here.
it's in that cutout.
It's in the same,
Yeah.
yeah.
And is that, do they lease that from us right now? Or is that, what, I don't.
That's just part of the road.
Well, it's
but
not really.
No, to go to
So
Sunny's.
my fear is that this road is a nightmare
It is nice.
in the mornings
It's-
when kids are trying to get to school, parents are trying to bring kids to school. it is a nightmare, and my concern is what will this do to what is already a nightmare?
Make it worse, but will they put it back to this normal state? See, I think that's what Sunny's getting to, is that tar addition there. I don't know what our agreement was with them, but technically, they should have.
It was always supposed to go back to the original state,
Right.
but in our conversations at facilities.
So is it, that tar addition is still there? I guess I.
You mean the extra sidewalk?
No, not the extra sidewalk,
There's nothing else in the grass. The grass is the grass again, and there's
Okay.
just the sidewalk there, from what I remember driving by it.
And that was
That was,
because of the road construction.
Road construction.
right, but I thought they actually added some asphalt too to
They
make
did.
it.
That was
They
temporary.
They took that
That
out.
was
Temporary.
yeah, that
So
was-
the addition of the sidewalk, that must have been an agreement.
Just a
that
wider
was-
sidewalk? Yeah, I don't remember how.
Well, because of those trucks and what they can't
It's so
turn.
that the trucks can
Can back
pull
in
in
and
and then
turn.
back into the loading dock. And
So I don't know
that-
if we agreed to allow them to do that. Is what I'm saying is that we'd have to be very careful, and I don't know what it says in there, that if we are gonna truly lease it, and maybe we sell it someday, that it has to go back. If they're gonna put a bunch of gravel in there, that's not gonna be very fun.
No, that's part of the lease, is that if we do this, that they have to return it back to the original state when they're done with it. Or we tell them they're done with it.
And they don't wanna buy it?
And, no, we're still in talks with another.
Well, I know.
But I don't
Two is always
see,
better
I
than
don't
one.
see,
Two is always better than one.
unless I missed it, I don't see an option in here for us to terminate.
I thought there's a 30-day.
No, tenant. It
That-
doesn't say landlord.
That's exactly what our attorney came back with, which is we need to be able to have the ability to
Yeah.
say, we need to end this as well. And so that's the changes that I just received again mid-afternoon. I will send you the changes if you want to see the changes, but we're gonna be sending that back to
Okay.
them for.
And are the storage containers, I don't know, they're just gonna be parked there, or are they gonna cause for more traffic, more
I'm guessing it's
congestion, more?
storage, because they don't have
Just
storage.
storage.
Because they don't
Just
have their
storage.
new building yet, so
Okay.
I'm sure they're running out of space. Yeah, I guess.
I would
Can
assume
we-
if you put storage there, you're gonna have some traffic going across to get the stuff out of the containers.
Can we review what we agreed to before, what is now? Because I drove back there a while ago and I saw that there was still the bump out, and it's not that big of a deal, but I was surprised because I thought it was supposed to be entirely back to its original. I just want to make sure that we had met the previous agreement.
Why do I think
Would that have been
was
with the
done?
city though, and not the
It very
brewery?
well could be. It could be within the limits of,
But that was done
the
a while-
distance
that was
from the
done
road.
before the
It might have
actual
nothing to do with us. I
asphalt.
just want to verify before we entered into a new agreement that our old agreement.
What that entails.
Correct.
To the extent, I mean, if they're driving on the sidewalk, that's public, but if they're actually driving onto the property, that's an easement issue.
They are,
So-
and they are whether there's tar or, I mean, 3 times a week I make the mistake of going up that hill. And I see where they're driving. Whether there's tar or concrete there or grass, they are using it to drive onto.
So you
More as a turnaround, right?
So you think
So that they
they're
can
gonna
back
open that
in.
that's there?
Do you know, Beth, if they did some concrete work before, for whatever reason, I think there was a little bit of a extended sidewalk there before the construction
Before, I don't.
of the asphalt.
Oh, I don't remember.
And so that's why it'd be a good question. I don't know, Lynn, you'd be the only one that's been, I mean, do you remember them ever? Oh, I don't know. But you're right, it could be the city agreed.
Yeah, and I mean, the congestion piece, there's nothing that precludes them from parking, driving back there, shipping containers, materials, equipment in the parking area. I mean, there's no limitations on
On how
how
you
they're
use
actually
space.
gonna use
Or the
it.
time that.
24 hours a day, Monday through
Well,
Friday.
does it say in there how long they wanna?
6 months,
6
and
months.
they have the exclusive right to renew it
Well, that's-
and exclusive right to terminate it.
That's where we would change that.
Yeah, so we have to counter that.
And I think as a rule of thumb, we want to be good to our neighbors and be neighborly, but I think we're doing our due diligence to protect our taxpayer-funded buildings.
The other thing, hopefully they've talked to the city to make sure that what they're storing there and any activity meets within the city guidelines of use of land in residential, because it kind of is just on the edge of residential there.
Could this be brought to facilities and grounds too, to kind of work, to have these conversations?
And then perhaps
And then we
in
can-
the city, make sure that they
I
have the
would
city
just wrote a
blessing
note to
too.
myself to talk to Bridget.
Yeah.
What can the monetary gain be used for?
Anything.
Okay.
It's general fund.
Okay.
I just know of one group that will not be happy if we do this, but they only use it for one day, because this is a property that the
And I've already been
Car show.
approached
the car club.
by that group
They,
to come to this board and ask for
they
that
use that
space as
side
well
of
as the old space.
They
They
moved
want
their
both.
car
They
show
moved
there
it.
because they wanted to be, they wanted more trees.
Right.
So they moved it there the last 2 years. And
And-
we haven't even had our first hometown pride meeting of this year. That's gonna happen in February, so we haven't even talked about anything yet, but I just
So,
know
like I
Dave's
said, I have been
working on it.
approached and they actually this year would like to get the okay to use both sides of the river because
They
they've
had so
been,
many
they're
cars
one of,
extra.
well, they're one of 4 locations picked to host like the big car, I don't know, I'm not a car person, but
Yeah.
which will draw a lot more people and probably more cars. Plus, there's the fear that if it is a wet weekend, then they wouldn't be able to use this side and would need the other side instead.
So
just
could we
for-
get that information too for facilities and grounds?
I don't know if our facilities and grounds is before the 10th of February.
No, it's
It's after that,
it
isn't
is
it?
after it.
And the other thing is you wouldn't want to hold up a lease where we're getting paid for a nonprofit group to
Right.
use it just for one day.
But I think you'd want to understand, would
Yeah,
this
work
prevent them
around it.
from using it?
Yeah.
Because this isn't the whole space.
No, but it is a space where they drive down in. So it would definitely crimp the setup that they've had in the past.
Is the board interested in going into a lease with the brewery for this?
what, I didn't, is it saying there, what kind of money they talking about?
$1,000.
It's $1,000 a month.
And they're gonna bring in a bunch of gravel and build it.
They'll build whatever they need to put the containers on and then take it off. And
How big is this space?
was there a diagram? I think there was a
Yeah.
diagram.
Yeah, it's
Well,
real easy
It
to
just,
see.
208 feet by 208 feet.
I
Give me
would
some, what does
say
that
at the
mean?
very
2
least-
football fields?
200
Doesn't say
feet
they have to go
is
6 months or they can turn it after that.
2/3 of the football field.
We-
Yeah, they could turn it into
200 right?
just short of a
for
football
30
field.
days. They
I
have to
would
give
say.
it 30-day notice. So they could turn it in 30
In
days.
my opinion, it
I
would
can at
be
least visualize
a
that.
certain amount of
That's a,
time.
that's a lot of
It
time.
had-
I mean,
should
6
be
months or a
minimum.
year, I mean, I think we have to put a time limit on what we think is reasonable. I mean, do we really want to tear it up for 3 months and then go, okay, we found our spot, and I don't know if
It
that's
should
worth.
say minimum.
So then as we have this conversation, I feel like there's just so many things that we would need to look into. We're, having our attorney review it, it just becomes this big thing. If this is something, I'd prefer it to go through facilities and grounds,
Mhm.
and because they're in a rush, doesn't mean we have to be in a rush. But so then at that point, it's like, it just becomes expensive administratively for us
Well,
to
have
make
them
this
pay that
happen.
bill, number one, so add that back in there, because it's gonna cost us X amount of dollars.
But
for
at
that.
the same time, I think it's important to be neighborly, so I would say,
And I would agree, we need to check into it, but I do think we need to do it at a decent clip, because if we're gonna gain the monetary value, we wanna let them use it. But I think it's gotta be in our terms of, it's gotta be for a year, or we can up that dollar amount to make sure it covers the fact that we might lose it for one of our other community events that, whatever.
That doesn't pay anything.
No, but at the end of the day,
But it's again,
it's,
neighborly.
yeah, it's being, community driven. And then also the legal fees, because now that I become the treasurer, I got to see some of those. And so there's no reason that they can't cover our cost of having to do this. And that's all fair. That's business, man. I mean, that's,
Right.
they get it. I mean, obviously it's important to them to have this spot, and they're willing to put money into something to use it for a short period of time, so.
I'd be interested in understanding how much traffic and access to the space too, and if it is gonna be a lot, could we at least limit that between 7:30 and 9? You know, I mean,
During daytime hours.
during, when kids are trying to get to and from school, like the busy, because
Buses.
the buses use that road, and then there's semis in the way, and then
Well,
semis are parked on both sides, and cars
To
are.
Kara's point, I mean, at some point, if we have so many restrictions on how they can use it, who's actually gonna police that? Like, who's gonna go over there and like, you're in violation, and then what are we gonna do about it?
We're gonna charge
Like, what
them
are we
more-
actually gonna
We're charging
do?
them more money.
So, exactly, use it
I
how
mean,
you want, but
you
but
gotta
if
pay.
you want for 6 months, you need to pay a premium, otherwise we'll accept a year, and you can maybe
Right, and-
pay a little less.
And I don't disagree with all that, but I do think timing does matter, because
Mhm.
I don't know how many of you use that road or travel on it when kids are trying to get to school, but it is a nightmare because there are trucks blocking perpendicular and there are trucks
But even if
on
we
both
do this,
sides.
you're not gonna, I mean,
It's not gonna
you're not
change.
changing that.
No, that
because
part isn't, but I'm just saying that add more to it.
How much?
is gonna make it-
Because you don't wanna go up there.
Or-
I agree with you, but I think
Well, I'm just saying, until.
if we go to the
you'd
facility,
be
we have
okay
a
with it
facility
until
meeting on
someone
the
gets
12th,
hurt.
right, or something like that, or come on.
February, something, yeah.
Yeah, it's that.
I would like to see us send out the information and get it to us so that we can be timely on making a decision on it, so we don't hash this all over again. We can all read it, come to the meeting, talk about it, make a decision if we're gonna
What
go,
day is
or
facilities?
come back.
It's Wednesday, that Wednesday.
What I'm hearing is, if we can answer the questions, get the information to the answers down for, this should go through, we can, but if we don't
February
get
12th.
the right answers, we're just not gonna do it.
Yeah, and if we
If
can,
they're saying they want it for
In the
storage
evening?
containers, they probably actually want to increase the use of the
It got moved.
trucks going back and forth, because it could be they're just setting storage containers there that are blocking their other areas right now so that they can work on the changes they're making, set them there, do the work, get rid of them. If that's the goal.
they can't be driving on too much over there. It's pretty small.
get
I'll get with
Yeah.
Brent, and I'll pull a meeting together with the people in the brewery, ask them what they're looking for. I'll get with Bridget, and then I'll get the answers for the buildings ground meeting, and then we'll go from there.
Perfect.
Sounds good.
Yeah, because then we have a board meeting the next, so we can recommend to the board what we have kind of talked about the facilities meeting and make a decision.
Yep.
Okay.
Moving on to action items. Letter A, resolution directing administration. So,
Yeah, go ahead.
just as a resolution that allows Brad to make necessary reductions if needed.
Yep, this is an annual resolution. It's unpleasant to talk about, but we have to have it on the books, just in case something would go south for us. Don't see it happening, but we need to have it on the books.
Yep. Kind of done this every year.
Okay.
I move to adopt a resolution to direct administration to begin the budget process for fiscal year 2021.
Resolution by Kira,
Second?
second by Jennifer. Any further discussion? And then this is a roll call vote. Shannon?
Aye.
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 Hi.
All right, unanimous approval of a resolution to direct administration to make recommendations for reductions. Has passed. Action item letter B, resolution to accept a donation. So it looks like we are on page 15. Thanks, Lynn. And the donation
Cold Springs
was
Granite.
from Cold Springs Granite for a milling machine, and that was estimated to be at about a $5,000 cost. So,
$5,000 today, but I can't imagine what it was when they first purchased it for themselves back in the day. So, yeah.
oh wow.
How big is this machine?
Darn it, Lynn.
Next time, send a
You got me a
picture.
question. You got me on that, Lynn. I did not research what the machine looked like. I did not anticipate
Because if the
that.
granite company used it, it's like they have such big equipment. It's-
Well, we do have to do some work to get for an electrical piece, so it's obviously, it's.
Pretty good size.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's okay. Don't be afraid to ask me those questions before the board meeting so I can make it look like I do what I'm talking about once in a while.
All right.
All right, so do we want to have a resolution here?
I move to adopt a resolution to accept the donation from Cold Spring.
Okay,
Second.
resolution. Kara, second by Sunny. Does this need to be roll call too?
This one does not.
This one does not. Okay, all those in favor? Or
Aye.
opposed? Motion or resolution passes. Okay, item C, any action, is a new position. And so if we could have Stephanie come up and provide us some more information.
Collected some more data of some area school districts and like size for you to see. I believe you have that in front of you with Melrose, Saxon, Avon, Albany, Foley, Annandale, Maple Lake, and then Rocori as well. So you see the district size there, whether or not they have the coordinator position and the number of summer offerings they had in 2019. I think it's important to note too that Melrose and Annandale, those are two districts where the community ed director position is most like mine, where we have a child care program. Melrose just started theirs, but they have the child care program, and the director is also the complete oversight over the early childhood program. So just went through and counted those summer offerings. So there's a large disparity there as you go through there and see those numbers. I also updated one document, additional from what you've seen before. It just says, what next? So upon approval of position, what might you see? What might the community see? Basically, alignment of programming. We have the opportunity to really work with the community to elicit real quality feedback on specific programs. We'd be able to strengthen the relationships within the district, both with the custodial coaches that we work with a lot, but also with the building administration, just to say, hey, what do you want in your building that you don't have that we can support, either during the school day or outside of the school day. That's a huge integration of community ed to the mainstream K-12 or pre-K-12 that we don't have yet here, that has been the goal of mine since coming to Rocori. Enhancing instructor satisfaction is huge. Our instructors do not have the same level of support that maybe a K-12 teacher does or a P-12 teacher does. They are often only communicated via email. They might never meet Becky or I, and that's not how we like to do business, and that's not how we retain quality instructors. So being able to increase their support would allow for growth and depth in the programs that we offer, along with an increased variety, as they might be more willing to do other programs as well. And also redefining community expectations. So we would be able to set new standards, which increases the trust between the community in general and the district on a whole. You'll see, and that's one of the big surveys, all the big pie charts that you have in there, one of those statewide surveys that was done by an independent consulting firm. They presented it at a conference, and it just shows that the more involvement that you have from the community in community ed, the more positive the district is perceived by the community as a whole, which means the more support that you will receive from the community. So I'm not one to read complete, everything that I give you, but that's kind of it in a nutshell. Just really looking to, we've done so much work in supporting early childhood. We've done a lot of work in supporting that child care program, and now we're really just wanting to support and enhance what we do for the rest of the community, adults, senior citizens, and K-12.
So can you just remind me the responsibilities of this position specific to community education and how that coordinates with your role overall?
Yep, so I would work with that person to bridge gaps and partnerships. I find different things to bring to the community, but the interaction between the two of us would be just like the other coordinators that I have, just like our early childhood coordinator. I still have sole decision-making authority on a lot of those big items, but they would be doing a lot of much like our child care coordinator too. Does a lot of arranging of programs, of staff, ideas, and talks with her staff about that, runs it by me, that kind of stuff. So it's not administrative per se, but.
As far as the data that you collected, so thanks for putting all this together, was this something that was, like with the systems that we have, or is this easy to pull as far as like how many course offerings we have, how many participants?
I do have with our new registration system, and that's been the hard part about wanting to see any kind of trend, is because we changed registration systems. I went with the new registration system because you can get much better reports, but it does not relate at all to what I could get from the previous.
What year did we implement that?
It was fall of 2018.
Okay, so the information prior to that was probably from some spreadsheets and maybe?
From RegWorks, which we use in other areas of the
yeah, we use
Okay.
RevTrack as like all of our lunch and all of our activity payments. And then RegWorks was like kind of this community ed system within RevTrack, but it wasn't very good, so we switched to LEO, which is a more like just for community ed, so you can track classes and participation a lot better. But it's only the second year of it, and all your child care is
childcare
there too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And as far as the achievement of goals, what's like the anticipated timeline to achieve goals without the position versus with the position?
With the position, obviously a much faster turnaround. We still would have to track if we're looking at how many participants can we increase. Definitely depends on how many programs we can offer. So given the addition of, I mean, even when I started, the administrative assistant position had just started doing their own early childhood reporting in MARS and special ed and putting into Skyward. So that is all new from prior to when I started. And then overseeing early childhood more specifically has grown into this position as well. Just a lot of changes. So before this, there was a lot more time spent on those programs, and we've just developed growth elsewhere. So without the position, the growth, I would argue, would be pretty stagnant with the current setup.
Okay. And as far as the dollars that we're being asked to spend on this position, Beth, question for you. Can those dollars be spent anywhere, or what designation do they have?
So they have to stay within Fund 4. So presumably then you could spend them on our early childhood as well, on childcare and on community ed, but we couldn't transfer anything over to like the general fund and like fund a K-12 teacher with it.
Okay.
How much do we transfer right now from general fund into 04, approximately, to cover?
Okay, so there's
that's
like,
a specific
yeah,
question.
so it's the DEF building itself. Our community ed program is not robust enough for us to have our own separate school building. The fact that we have a building there is because of building the school up here. If we were like really right size with our buildings, it would probably be housed in Cold Spring Elementary. You'd have one big building. So that's part of it, is the custodial and all the overhead for that building is general fund.
Okay.
And then this year, with the contract changes that were approved for all of the preschool teachers and their benefits that got added, there's about $50,000 that's going to get transferred from general to cover those benefits.
Yeah, I guess that would be my question. I don't know how we ever right size that, but like if the custodial services that are in the DEF building doesn't go against community ed, if we shovel it, if we pay for the driveway, parking lot, snow removal, that comes out of where? The general fund?
Any building related expenses are general fund at this point.
Can we ever correct that? Such that it's allocated to community ed? Like they can pay for the snow removal?
I think if we had 5 child care centers, we could cover that whole building.
Sure.
Possibly. I mean, you're talking about a custodian, a halftime cleaner, utilities,
But-
snow removal. It's a lot. I
But
mean,
is the real
it's a
question,
whole
could the
building.
money that we would be spending on
Right.
this position be
Used
used
to
to
offset
cover some of
something, and I
those?
think-
Yeah, that's, I
what
guess,
you're
what I'm
getting
saying, so then there'd be more money available in the general
general
fund.
fund.
It would, from based on what you just said.
It could, yep. So in approving the position, it's really a matter of if you want to reinvest the funds back into community ed or not. I mean, that's the big question here is I'm going to speak for Stephanie, but when we set up the program and we talked about taking it and making it Smart and Spot and not having it be kid care, was so that those dollars came back into our community and we reinvest them here versus sending it to St. Cloud where they were reinvesting in their own kids and providing extra opportunities, because that's what happened. We reviewed their
But I would
financial statements.
argue that if we're not using as much of the general fund to cover the building that houses community ed, we're still reinvesting in our local community because we're reinvesting in our students that go to school here. So I get what you're saying, and yeah, we did talk about that, but it's a horse and peas. You're reinvesting
The first time I was
regardless.
here, I did say it is a philosophical question, and what you decide here just tells me where things stand, and I go with that. My job as community ed director is to serve the whole community, and I firmly believe that we are not doing that to the capacity that we could be or should be. And so that's why I'm here asking for that position, so that we can do that.
And that's why I'm here recommending that you make this decision to get this position so we can.
And I think to sum it up, I would agree that the building is a white elephant that we can't change. None of us here made that decision, or some of us, most of us didn't, to keep it. To keep the building there. And I didn't mean that, I'm sorry. I didn't mean that in a negative tone. I guess all I'm saying is that I understand both sides of it. We're stuck with where it's at, and it's fundamentally not the right way to run a business, and that's just the way it is. We can't change it overnight. If we are going to make that change, however, and we are thinking about how that's going to happen, will we be able to continue on if we create this position and create all this other programming, and we do try to right our wrong with too many buildings? Would we be able to, what would be our plan to continue with this if that were to happen, or is that not even something we should worry about? But I guess I would say, building the programs is great.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Shams, to your point, is this position is not building specific. This position is program.
It is, but we're behind the 8 ball in the money that we spend to function all these buildings, and we have a chance to maybe get ahead. And I'm not saying it's the right thing. I'm just making sure everybody understands that we are making a decision that we're going to use funds again, and again, I take general fund dollars to fund a building that houses the least amount of our kids. Doesn't mean it doesn't help our community, but again, most of our kids are up at these schools. So we just have to be transparent with understanding what we're doing. We can't change that. I don't think that was, you can't change anything about it. You got a huge building, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. But there's no way you can pay for it, even if it's full or not.
Right.
Because that's what we're talking about right now. We can't fund the building with those programs. We have to fund it with other things. And if it's important to us, and I think that's what Brad's asking us, and we want to continue to go to the programs that we talked about last year with taking on Sport and Spot, then I guess I would say we're kind of stuck. But I would like us to all agree that we have to keep working towards how we're going to alleviate, some of those other issues. Talking to Assumption about that land. What are we going to do in the future? I mean, we have to start thinking about that, or they're going to be here 10 years from now talking about the same thing.
Well, and then there's some real questions if you end up selling that and acquiring other space and start building a new early childhood center. Do you put a senior center in your early childhood center if you build a new one? Because that is...
Sounds like a great problem to have, Lynn, if we can.
Makes a difference in the direction of this program too, because if you build a new early childhood center and it's just early childhood, do you have space for all of the new classes that you want to do with this? So it all fits together eventually.
Right. And you'd like to believe it's up on this campus and it can be part of more than just seniors and early childhood, but that's a whole nother discussion. I guess to help everybody kind of, I would say, if we're going to continue on with the work that we're doing, it's one of those decisions that I'm hearing Brad say he wants to make. I probably would say I would go with that recommendation, but I'd also like you to follow. We also said that, you know, if things don't look the way they should in a year, we can reevaluate and make a decision. And
So, on that, I mean, if we can compromise somewhere here, I mean, how come this position can't be like with a finite term? Like it expires after 1 year or 2 year, and then we reevaluate with maybe an option to
Jeff,
renew?
I think the answer to that question is it can be, because this is not going to be on a tenurable based like a teacher. This is
It's an at-will.
It's an at-will employee. So.
Sure.
And it is funded by the money from that program. So if the kids aren't there and aren't available, and the money's not there, we're not gonna, you know, other than what we're contracted to do, if we were to hire that person, we're not gonna continue to pull money from a different spot to pay this job. That, I mean, that's what I think you're asking.
Stephanie has said that, you know, the hope is this will pay for itself by adding more programs. I think we evaluate that, you know, in a year and see how it's doing. If it's working towards it, great. If it's not working towards paying for itself, maybe then we make a different decision. Or you maybe give it 2 years to fully, because we're starting mid-year, to see if it's paying for itself. And I think just like all of our other programs, you need to be looking at them on a regular basis. It's this
And
taking...
we may have talked about this already too, because it's been a while. But it doesn't need to go to a full-time position right out of the gate. Could a part-time position provide benefit as well? I can't remember if we talked about that or not.
To be honest, anything is better than nothing. I do worry about the quality of candidate, just like any other position that you have, when you don't have something that's sustainable for people. So it is a little bit of a risk in that sense, and I get that.
So you would be asking to hire them now and really retain them through next year, because you wouldn't just hire them for half a year?
That'd be a lot of work on me to train them and let them go.
If you add them to the program manager contract, that contract is through June of 21. So a year and a half, and that contract is up.
Yeah, so that's what I just said.
Mm-hmm.
I think this really good discussion. I understand the concerns. Stephanie and Beth have both provided all of the information that you've asked for. It really comes down to, I'm sorry, Chair, we just need to bring it to a vote and move forward.
So does someone want to make a motion?
I was going to say, just so we can get this on the table and we know where everybody stands, I'll make the motion to approve this position.
Motion by Lynn to approve the Community Education Program Coordinator position. I will second the motion to approve the Community Program Coordinator position. All those in favor of any further discussion?
Just again to reiterate, I think for my comfortability that it does sound like it's a year and a half, but we are going to obviously reevaluate, and we hope that it's going to not only keep us where we're going, but improve it.
Correct.
And we have to be okay with the facts if that isn't the case.
Correct.
And you know, again, I would believe that based on what you've done, Stephanie, that it will be something good for us. We also have to make sure that we are doing the best we can to let the rest of our school communities understand how important this position is. So being aware of that, because there's going to be some people that are not going to understand it. And they're not going to understand, you know, the decision we have to make. And so we can't just, I think we have to educate, and we have to be.
So I would ask that because of that, because I think you're right. I think some people will and some people will not understand why we would value this or put value into this. And so I would ask that we have a plan for, you know, some sort of every 6 months over the next year and a half update on, you know, how have we seen things increase, how have our numbers increased, what has this position done for the program. And if that comes to this, at least we're able to be transparent and provide some of that information.
Yeah, and highlight the future. I mean, we're all about the future and building our community, and that's what this is all about. So for me, that's why it's important, and we have to make sure we let people know that, and we're showing them that. And try to educate them, because like I said, there's going to be some people that are going to be disappointed.
Well, I think the intent is to try to enhance our community and what is offered to them, and it's going to be a positive for all age groups. And I do think that, this was part of our long-term pieces of, where we wanted to develop, and I think it may warrant us to look at that a little bit more closely so we can try to prioritize. So as these things come up, then we can sort of say, hey, this is sort of where we are in priority on that whole long-term spending program. So that could be for another time, but so we have...
One other point of discussion.
Okay.
I really want to see that this is not a 9-to-5 position, that it's whoever is hired for this understands it's
Flexible.
a very flexible schedule, because I think when we do have night programs, which my hope is they can be there, there hasn't been coverage a lot of times for having someone in the building. One of the issues when I took classes, there was nobody there to take money. People they would put something there and pay your $2 if you want to play pickleball, but nobody was there checking if anybody paid, or nobody was checking one of the exercise classes to see that the people that were in the room were the ones that were signed up. Because everybody just came in and started exercising. So I want to make sure that we have that as part of this person's job description, that they have to have flexible hours and expect to work some nights to provide coverage for those classes.
Be visible, and yeah, it's a great point. I mean, otherwise it's not going to go over.
Right.
And the last thing, you said this way back when, it was probably our fault that we didn't make sure it was on the budget, but we really talked a lot about making sure we stay within that budget plan, and we need to make sure that that is being used. You can't just think that maybe it's going to be on there. It needs to, these things need to be on there, because had this been on that plan and we really focused on it, that wouldn't even have been an issue of ours, that we were doing something that wasn't maybe coming. And we did that, so we're fair. We're fair to all of the different pieces of our school that are looking for money. We just have to.
Yeah, if there's extra funds available, is this the biggest need district-wide?
That is exactly why we tried to have that.
Is this the biggest need? Is this where we should be spending additional dollars?
And that may open on a whole nother can of worms.
Well, that's the can of, that's actually, we're responsible for the landscape of the entire district. So is this, if there's additional dollars, is this the need and where it needs to be spent?
My answer to that would be there isn't a need right now that I think they feel is there.
There's probably a lot of needs.
There probably is, you're right.
Have we evaluated all of those?
Well,
have we prioritized all of those?
I'm going to say yes, because our leader has said he recommends it. So I'd answer that yes, but that's the whole reason why we didn't want to stray off of that. And we made the decision to stray off of it because it wasn't on there, because we didn't think it would, it was coming from different money. And anyway, I don't think it's a bad question. I guess I'm just trying.
I think
that's
it's a very
my
fair
hesitation.
question. That's mine too. I agree 100%.
I feel accountable to all the students here, all the educators here, the whole district, taxpayers, community. Have we evaluated the available funds and all of the needs within the district, and have we collectively decided that this is the most important thing? Because that's what we're committing to today.
I guess I would answer yes, because that's the recommendation we're making. I mean, that would be, unless you can correct that, I don't have any other way to.
I mean, I'm standing here in front of you saying this at this time right now, this is a need for our community. I understand the stewardship question. I absolutely do.
I don't dispute it's a need. Is it the most important need?
I think that would be a question of who you'd ask. I'm sure you'd ask the special education department. They'd say, we need a new speech pathologist tomorrow.
But in your opinion, as the superintendent and the leader of
Yes.
this district, is this the most important need to be spending this money on?
At this time, it is for our community. This is not about first grade or a department. This is about our community. So the answer is yes, at this time.
Okay, so there is a motion to approve the position. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of approving the community and program coordinator position, say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
All right, motion passes.
Thank you, Stephanie, for your time tonight.
Thank you. Okay. Item letter D, approval of the closed payment to Copeland Bakery.
Okay, help me, do I need to say something?
You just make a motion.
I'll make a motion that we pay the bakery.
Read what it says.
Okay, I gotta get back to
Make
it.
a motion.
All right, hold on, give me a second, yeah, let me get to it.
I'll coach you.
Okay, well,
I'll
first I
make-
gotta get back to my page.
I'll make a motion to make a payment to Cold Spring Bakery, check number 103195 in the amount of $139.26.
Just read letter D under action
Yeah.
No,
items.
I'm looking for, okay, great.
Well, you can move, you
I
can
just
make.
did-
He just did, I found it now.
So
I
now
got
you
it.
go ahead and say.
So now I,
So I recommend approval of the payment to the Cold Spring Bakery.
okay.
Motion by Jason, second by Shannon.
Okay, that's what I was asking, is did we switch? Who made the motion?
I was helping coach.
Thank you,
That's what you want to say.
I missed my
All right.
lesson with that.
Motion by Jason, second by Shannon. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed?
I abstain.
Lynn abstains. Motion passes. Point number 9, administrative and board report, superintendent report.
I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the couple of meetings I attended last week. First was the C meeting, Lynn, where I was able to listen to Dr. Lori Hellman, who is the professor of reading at the University of Minnesota. Remember, the University of Minnesota developed what's called PRESS. That is our intervention that we do for early intervention reading here at Rocori Schools. And so we are connected to the U with that. And I was able to hear Dr. Hellman. And I hate to admit this on camera, but I'm going to. When I went through my teacher education program as a Phi Ed and social studies teacher, I never once was taught about what the actual learning process of how you read from the time you were born until by the time you get to the end of your 3rd grade. And in 45 minutes, Dr. Hellman kind of took us through that. And I'm quite amazed at what our K1, 2, 3 teachers have to do to help get kids to learn how to read. It's quite the process. And I thank my wife for all those times she would spend with our kids with the chunky books, you know, and how that really makes a difference for kids in their language development. So it was a very good presentation by her. And then the second part of the meeting was with Senator Nelson and Representative Cheryl Yoakim, who are basically the leaders of the education in both the House and in the Senate. And we had a spirited conversation over the surplus and where the surplus will be spent in the next year leading into this next biennium. So it was a good meeting to attend.
I'm sorry I missed it.
That is all I'll report on tonight.
Okay. So then we've got item B, board committee representative reports. I think maybe before we get to that, maybe Lynn and I and Brad could talk about MSBA.
Oh,
Would
yeah,
that be-
absolutely.
That'd be okay?
Yeah, because I brought all my notes.
Yeah, I brought some too, so go ahead.
I want to say one of the best sessions I went to down there was on a session called What Does the Research Say? And it's done by several people from the University of Minnesota. The, what do they call themselves here? The University, let's see, District Leadership Academy. Anyway, she used to work with the St. Croix River Education District, but now she's anyway. They went into a couple.
Dr. Kim Gibbons?
Yeah.
He's awesome.
Yeah, I was really impressed. They went into some of the different topics that schools are always asking about. Does class size matter? Does looping work? What about what they call platooning, where you have one teacher teach all the science, one teacher teach all the reading, one teacher teach all the social studies, whatever. And they pulled together all the research studies on this, and so if we ever need to make any decisions on this, I would definitely pull these people in and pull their research, because they have a lot of good data on what works and what doesn't work when you're trying to make decisions on adding programs, changing programs, and doing things differently. And the interesting one for me was that the class size, there's not as much research out there showing class size matters after you get to a certain point as what some people think. So that session was really good. I did sit in on the people from the lobbyists from the MSBA, and you're talking about what the discussion was at C. Well, MSBA is going to be going after some of that money, and they are talking about we need to be asking for another 1% on the general education formula. We need to be asking for school safety money, and we need to be asking for the special ed cross subsidy to be at least more money put into it. And what they're asking for is still only going to be, I think, came up to 12% of that money that
Piece.
Yeah.
Being behind on inflation.
Yes. So they said we shouldn't be hesitant to go after our legislators and say that if we have money to spend, that it needs to go back into education, because we have not followed through on all our commitments to education. Even though legislators will say, well, we gave you 2 and 2 and we did something on cross subsidy, what they did isn't enough, because it's what we did last year is a 1-year fix. Most districts are going to be cutting if this doesn't happen. So they had really good information, and if anybody is talking to legislators, and even giving this stuff to parents, we could put something together that we could share with parents, so when parents are saying, well, you know, we need to let the legislature do tax refunds or something else, it's like, no, we need it in education, and we need to get our money. The other, I went to some really good sessions. The other one I'm just going to talk about was a session I went to, I was going to say Staples Motley, but they're up by Staples Motley. District where they do their own in-district grants. They said, you know, through the budgeting program, our process, we usually ask people what they need, but sometimes there's projects that teachers need that with a little bit of extra financial help could make a real difference in how teachers teach, and yet there may not be money within their building or within their program for it. And so they picked up in their district, they have $40,000 that every year they give out in-district grants, and teachers can apply for them. Sometimes people come with grants requests and they say, oh, well, that really does fit into curriculum, or that fits into general fund or whatever. And so some projects have still been funded and not used their grant program. But the one teacher that was there that had gotten a grant, math teacher who had applied for a grant to get whiteboard tables in her classroom. So her kids do all their work right on their desk because it's a whiteboard. And so she just gives them markers and they were doing their math. And she said it's made a world of difference in how her kids are learning to do math, because everybody can show their work on their table. You know, they had a bunch of different examples, but it's a way that staff can feel like there is a way within the district that they can get the funds for a program that maybe doesn't fit in some of our other funding processes. So I was impressed with that. And you guys are probably going to talk about the general session speakers, so I'm not even going to those, but those were the ones that I really thought were great.
Okay, so I went to a few things I'll report back. There was just a quick roundtable session on school-based agriculture education funding opportunities, and one of the exciting things that I don't know if the board is aware of is that the levy allows for, there's a community career technical education levy that allows the district to get reimbursed up to 35% of the expenses. So we are in the process. I talked to the gentleman there, and he said he's approving our application so that we can get 35% of our cost of what our FFA teacher has put onto the school reimbursed through this program. So that has been, great for the kids, and it's actually working out great that they have another funding stream source to help support that program, which is amazing. So,
just a side note, we have other programs that have been using that levy and aid for a while.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not super new, but it is awesome that Tamara has the right license to apply for it for FFA too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, and maybe if you need more details about what other programs there are, you could get there.
I've died.
So
I got it.
so anyways, but that's a great thing. And then I think there was also this Minnesota, or it's MAELC Strategic Grants Initiatives, and it's grants for supporting programs like agriculture, food, natural resources at schools. And awards have been from 1,000 to 15,000, with the average more being 7,000. Applications are apparently due on the 15th, and apparently they had said that there were less than expected applications for the November, because they take two different applications. So they strongly encouraged you to complete one for the April 15th, because there may be extra funds there for that. So different funding opportunities through the ag program, so that's exciting. And it also talked a little bit about the one that we already approved with the summer addition onto her hours, so that pays for half of her summer hours. So we just had to commit for half of that, so that's really exciting. So I did go to several mental health presentations. One was about up in Duluth, how they've partnered with the county public health programs, and so they've just talked about how that's been a great relationship and helping deal with many of the issues of mental health that are out there, and the student and staff involvement has been great, in addition to having some public health nurse involvement. So it's been a positive relationship. They've been able to get some texting stuff going with students, done some surveys, meetings with different groups, targeted support, and then they've had resource posters at all the secondary schools, health training, flow charts, lots of different things to help, and then they talk about suicide prevention, resources for that, and so that might be something that we might try to look to Stearns as maybe an opportunity to partner with potentially. And then there was a very interesting presentation from Belle Plaine about mental health, and there's this program called Move This World, and it's about social and emotional learning, and just amazing presentation and programming. It just talks about how the social emotional learning is just a huge needed component out there, and what this program does is it basically takes I think it's like 38 weeks of programming, and then they do like a 5-minute little video at the beginning of the day, and they do a 5-minute video at the end of the day about just a stressful situation or how to manage this or that. And they said that not only is it beneficial for the students, but also teachers, administrators, everybody who's watching this gets some great messaging about how to deal with maybe stress or whatever that may be that's creating your mental health issue in a positive manner. And so interesting side note is that one of their basketball players was talking about, so they went to state and they were interviewed on TV, and they're like, well, how did you deal with the stressful? Well, I just think about the videos. They basically alluded to the Move This World videos, and it helps me relax before the game. And that was sort of unsolicited, and so just the impact and just how they talked a little bit about getting the buy-in from the teachers. So I can send out a link to maybe an article to the board for you to look at, and if you got more questions, you can sure ask me about that. And then I did go to parliamentary procedure for myself to learn a little bit more about that. I also attended another roundtable about standard-based evaluation for superintendents, so maybe I have extra booklets for everyone that we can maybe give that out so that you've got that as a resource as we're getting into the end of that. And then there was another presentation about human resources and public education, which was a very interesting presentation from St. Michael Albertville, how they've sort of been able to add some HR duties, and I'm not sure how they did it, but basically moving people around, and it didn't really have a cost to the district, and they've gone from 1 to 2 to 3 positions, and it's really helped them build a lot of positive relationships, because one of the points that they brought was that that HR can do some of that discussion, that, you know, if there's some coaching or stuff that needs to happen, then, you know, if you've got a administrator, you know, they can try to foster some of the positive relationships with their team, and it doesn't always, you know, it doesn't have to have maybe some of that other negative stuff when there's issues that come up. That's kind of the administrator and coming instead of coming from HR. So I know that's maybe part of our work session, I think, discussion a little bit too, so I can go into more detail if you've got questions, but that's a pretty good summary of what I had seen.
Well, neither one of you touched on, so I will. The opening session on Thursday was with John Quinones. John Quinones is the gentleman who reports for ABC News, and then also has a half-hour show called What Would You Do? The ethical dilemma questions. The one, of course, was brought some tears in the crowd, was the one where the gentleman went to the coffee shop and he couldn't read the menu, and of course then the teller, or the cashier was giving him a hard time about, you know, how can you be this old and not read? And then people would come in from behind and they would tell her that she's rude, and, you know, how do you know his background? And it was very interesting. But John Quinones' story is very interesting. He is Latino, grew up, born in America, but always was told, you know, well, you know, you're Mexican. Well, no, I'm American. And just how he got to where he got to through in his life, pushed by his mother, and his father, or his mother mostly, who only had a second or third grade education, and how he has now risen to the top of being one of the more respected journalists. So it was just an
And
excellent.
how his teachers often said, well, you know, don't think about going to college. That's probably not going to work for you. You should be going to trades or something like that. And his mother said no.
Yeah. So we all have, we can all make an influence on kids, and so we have to make sure we don't limit them in their helps that they make to make where they want to go. Because, as he said, I always wanted to be a journalist. I always wanted to be a writer. I always wanted to be on TV. So he just did it. So it was really good. Very inspiring. So
I realized you guys didn't stay for the closing one, and I stayed until the last 20 minutes, and I was sitting there watching the weather radar when the snow was going to hit. That was really kind of mind-blowing. You know, we think we can go on and Google our answers, and he showed how on Google we only get the answers from one point of view. We're not getting the whole view of an issue, and he did something like, if a student was going to study the Iran hostage crisis, they would only get the American view. They would never get anything from Iran or from a different country's point of view of what happened there. And there is a new, I don't know if we call it website, a new search engine out there called Wolfram Alpha, where it actually solves problems for you. And he showed how you could you put things in differently. You don't put them in as a whole question. You mostly put in nouns, and he was solving equations and problems, and that this is going to be the new place where we have to teach kids how to solve and get the information they need to solve the problems. Because it actually pulls all of the different variables and can come up with the answers. So you might want to check that out, and hopefully maybe we can share that with, I don't know who it needs to be shared with, but it's just, technology is definitely changing, and how we use technology is going to definitely change for what we teach kids, and probably this will be part of our one-on-one discussion later too.
Okay, thanks, Lauren. So board reports, Shannon?
Yeah, Bush Club meets or didn't, they may have not. We had our board meeting that night. So I don't really have anything reported there. And then we have our facilities meeting coming up. I think it's February 12th. I think I'm right on that day. So that's it.
Okay.
I haven't had any meetings scheduled since our last board meeting, so.
Neither.
Okay.
Missed seat.
Let's see. I had Becky Stearns. Let's see. So that's in the minutes. I think one of the important parts is we talked about the general education rebate. So basically, after things shake out, just because of the funding, and Beth knows this, it takes like a year and a half, you're behind, or whatever. So they're finally figuring out what the revenue was, and it looks like there was about $450,000 extra, or positive dollars that we had, I should say, than what we budgeted, and so that gets distributed amongst districts as a percentage, but we've held that, we voted to hold that till the next meeting because there is discussion about maybe leasing some space for program development of the
For level 4
Voyagers in Sartell. So I will give an update next time regarding that. And then they talked about how great of a positive the Academy Day was here at January 20th. So it was New London Spicer.
And Stearns holding 4 games.
Yes. And so just lots of positive things. So thanks to all the staff and people to make that a great success. And in fact, there are other districts there. I think Kimball has inquired about participating, and I'm not sure if there's other ones there. Another positive is the MDE monitoring. We were the only district that didn't have any issues with their documentation, so very big kudos to our staff and making sure that was all T's were crossed and I's were dotted. So we were one of the 6, so that's exciting. They're going to be working on some of their secure entrances because they did win some of the grant money that was put out there last year. And they gave us a child count update, and I talked about the leasing. So, okay, and then policy didn't meet in January, so that's.
We met virtually, I guess, when we sent out the information.
Oh, yeah, the final one. Yeah. Kara.
The committees that I report on did not meet.
Okay, Sunny.
My committees did not meet.
Okay. And then the last item, or I guess not second to last item, a budget comparison report for December 2019.
Just if there's questions, I'm here.
Questions? Okay. And then upcoming events and activities, any items of concern? No. Okay, very good. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
Second.
Motion by Sunny, second by Lynn. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned.